Ohio State might have the best roster in college football after all. After all, they are the first Big Ten team to win multiple AP top 5 matchups in a single season in nearly 20 years. The last team to do it was an Ohio State team in 2006 that got to the national championship. So maybe a sign of things to come for the Buckeyes. And man, this past weekend, this was the one we've been waiting for. This was the performance that you've been craving from the Buckeyes. A complete performance, multiple phases getting involved, offense, defense, and in special teams. Let's start with the defense because I think they deserve the most credit. It's not about where you start, though, in the game. It's really more about how you finish. First series of the game, after the offense goes 3 and out, the Buckeyes on the defensive side, 11 plays, 70 yards, right down the field, Indiana touchdown, 7-0 lead for the Hoosiers. Not great, right? 3 third downs converted on the drive. Davis and Igbinosun was called for multiple pass interference penalties. You're sitting there thinking like, all right, here we go again. And then they did not allow a drive of longer than 8 yards until the middle of the third quarter. And that possession still ended in a punt. The next series after that, they went negative 11 yards. So what I appreciated most about this, and we had talked about this for now a little while, I thought that Ohio State at times had been a little bit vanilla. And it's because I think Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator, acknowledges, hey, I have a talent advantage pretty much every single time I walk out on the field. So I don't want to do anything that's going to lead to cheap yardage for the opposition. Let's keep it base. Let's keep it vanilla, no busts. Let's keep it in front of us. Bend, don't break. Our defensive line will get home. We'll force them off the field because we're going to have a negative play that we create throughout the game. Now he's like, nah, you know what? We're still going to fire our gun. We're still going to do some things on that side. And it's been impressive to watch them ratcheting up the pressure just a little bit, the aggressiveness just a little bit. And as a result, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. Cody Simon was phenomenal for the Buckeyes in this game. And outside of really the opening drive and the 75-yard touchdown drive in the fourth quarter, they allowed 6 yards of total offense. Think about that. Excluding the 26 plays on their 2 scoring drives, they allowed 6 yards to an Indiana team that had been averaging in the mid-400s. That's an impressive showing. Okay, so I love what I've seen. 151 total yards allowed. It's the fewest allowed by a team in a game against an AP top 5 team since 2015. That was when Michigan State held Ohio State to just 132 yards. The offense, I think they got to figure out something. Okay, we talked about the offense and how I just feel like I'm missing a little something there. Okay, I'm missing just a little bit. You got to figure out a way to run the football. Right now, they're 48th in the FBS in rushing, about 178 yards a game. And with their running backs, with their talent profile, they should be able to be a top 20 group running the football. They should. And if you remove Travion Henderson's run with a minute left or so, they had rushed for just 74 yards on 26 carries. Now, it's a good rushing group that they were going against if you look at the numbers, but I just want to see more in the run game there. And maybe it's because of the offensive line having to constantly be reshuffled. This is the 5th different offensive line combination that they've been forced to play this year, several of which forced by injury. We know that. With Josh Simmons going down after 6 weeks, with Seth McLaughlin going down in practice last week, their left tackle and their center respectively, we know it's going to be challenging. I mean, you move your left guard Hinsman into center now. You have to just completely, guys are moving around. And I think it's tricky. I think it's really tricky to have to be an effective group running the football when you've had that much movement. But down the stretch, when they get into the playoff and when they get another crack at Oregon and when they play potentially for a national championship, they got to get something out of their run game that's more than just the random big hitters from time to time. And then I look at the receiving core. I am really optimistic about what I'm seeing there because they're teams that are kind of bracketing Jeremiah Smith. They're saying, hey, we cannot let Jeremiah Smith beat us, which is opening the door for Emeka Egbuka and more specifically Carnell Tate. Tate down the stretch might be as important a player on this team as anybody because if you have a third receiver that can play like a first receiver, who are you covering them with? If your top two guys are accounting for Ibuka and for JJ Smith, perfect. Carnell Tate, he'll eat, and it should be a really good position for him to be in. Then finally, the special teams. They had not had a return touchdown in 10 years. So I was surprised by that, by the way. Really surprised by that. So it was impressive to see the punt return touchdown. That was significant, but it was also big to see the capitalization on the muffed snap there by the punter for Indiana. So the other question that I think a lot of people are kind of talking about right now, did they need to score at the end of the game? To me, I say yes. With how brash Curt Cignetti's been, with how outspoken Curt Cignetti's been, and all the bravado we've seen from Indiana this offseason and throughout the year, I don't blame Ryan Day for punching in another one there at the end of the game. It's not surprising, and I don't think anyone should feel too bad about it. Tremendous performance from the Buckeyes in all three phases, and something that I think can be built on heading into the game against Michigan, and then ultimately in victory, the game against Oregon in the Big Ten Championship.